and we're underway and racing. Stay on the brakes, goodness me, what a launch! The outside of turn 1 and takes the lead of the race.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the APC, the season finale here in Abu Dhabi. And what a race it is set to be. Not as good a race, mind you, as we were anticipating this time last week when we were getting ready to start off proceedings here. As unfortunately, Wongswat Reversi very dramatically will not be taking part in the race this evening. Therefore, that unfortunately does mean that the champion has been crowned, and it is Andrea Senkovan. I'm Tom Dillon. Alongside me is Owen Boldero. Owen, slight disappointment, slightly disappointing way to end the season. We're not going to get the grandstand finish that we anticipated, but oh well, we've got a champion.
Yeah, what I would have been saying right now, had we have had a title fight, is it's crunch time. This is where it matters. But obviously, unfortunately, Wongswat Reversi is unable to and he pulled that back over the sort of last year.
Yeah, and of course he went into this race this evening knowing that he was in the championship lead already. He didn't have to do anything but beat Wongswat Reversi in this particular race. And unfortunately, well, fortunately for him, that's exactly what he is now. Has kind of had gifted to him, and he's able to do a little bit more effectively than we would have anticipated. So just waiting for drivers to be ready in the lobby, and I will say, for complete transparency, I'm currently the delay on the proceedings here because my game decided he wanted to do a last minute update and not allow me to to join up in time for the start of this race. But in terms of the championship, then it's a double championship for Ferrari. Andrea Senkovan, your champion, with Ferrari having wrapped up the constructors a while ago now. It's certainly very, very interesting, isn't it? They've got probably the best package on the grid, I'd say.
Yeah, they've got a great combination of drivers in Andrea Senkovan and Ethan Shackleton, two consistent performers. Obviously, Shackleton, a title contender last season, which ironically also had an anticlimactic ending with Ethan Shackleton crashing out on lap 1, I believe it was. So the last 2 seasons, we've unfortunately not had a good title fight in the final race. But as we were talking about Ferrari, yeah, 2 really consistent drivers. And I think with Wongswat Reversi not having a teammate for most of that season, it just really helped them wrap it up really quickly. So massive well done to both of them.
Yeah, it was the killer blow as well, wasn't it? And I think it's also important to mention that it's not necessarily a case of they absolutely were always completely unopposed, because there's been really strong contenders, hasn't there, throughout the course of this season. We've seen Haas, of course, not as much as you would have liked, but kind of the likes of Haas, Williams particularly, Alpine as well. They have actually pushed Ferrari a little bit throughout this season.
Yeah, it hasn't been easy for Ferrari. Obviously, at the start of the season, when Wongswat Reversi did have a teammate, it was looking like Haas were absolutely running away with it. But sort of towards the mid-season, it shifted. I believe Ferrari took lead of the constructors in about race 7 or 8, maybe a little bit sooner, might have been 6. But from there, they've just not looked back. They've extended. And obviously, with Wongswat not having a teammate, he just hasn't quite been able to compete. But if he has a teammate next season, I expect a good fight between Haas and Ferrari for the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in agreement with that, and hopefully he gets a good teammate, someone who can really push Ferrari all the way. So we're just waiting for this race to get underway. Now, I'm trying to think if there are any scenarios here where Senkovan doesn't win the championship, even though, of course, Reversi isn't going to be here this evening. Points deductions, potentially, if he is really, really silly out on the circuit. So he has still got a little bit of work to do here, in that he just needs to finish the race pretty much, or at least make an account of himself and complete a lap of the race. Also, there's a potential that Reversi does manage to turn up on time. So I don't think it's completely over just yet, Owen.
No, as you said, there are a couple of scenarios. If I was in Senkovan's shoes, I wouldn't be panicking. I wouldn't be thinking anything except one thing. Don't be stupid. It doesn't matter what he does tonight. Say, for instance, Aaron McGurk were to push him. Just let him go. You don't need to be stupid. Tonight is your night to enjoy the race. Just have some fun, and the championship is yours.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And we are just getting into our qualifying hit at Abu Dhabi. It's the new layout of Abu Dhabi, of course, from a couple of years ago. We all remember it very well, starting in 2021. And since then, I think most people have actually found it to be their preferred layout of Abu Dhabi compared to the old school from a few years ago. And it is just going to take about 30-40 seconds or so for us to get into this, get into the lobby and get ready to go. 30 seconds countdown I can see on my screen at the moment. And in terms of predictions of the race, then Owen, we've not got a huge amount of people on the circuit this evening. We've got in entirety 7, so it could be pretty open for who's going to finish on that podium.
Yeah, we're going to have a good fight for the podium. Do you want a full prediction of the podium? So a top 3? Do you want a top 3? Do you want a full prediction of top 3?
I think a full prediction of top 3, that would be nice.
Obviously, I've not actually seen who's racing yet, but I'm going to say, in this order, Senkovan, McGurk, Shackleton is my top 3. And then I think just behind them will be Lewis Smith in 4th.
Well, maybe not a bad shout at all. So 18 minutes on the clock, ready to go for this qualifying session here in Abu Dhabi. And your pictures will just possibly go black for a moment there. I do apologise, as had to fix something on the back end. But back to live pictures. You can see we're just waiting for the first lap times to come in. The first people to decide they want to go out onto the circuit, and in due course, here comes Aaron McGurk out onto the circuit. Makes his way around the very unique style pit lane here at Abu Dhabi and out onto the circuit under the floodlights. Of course, this being a night race, we'll have the first couple of laps of the race in those sort of sunset conditions, but very, very quickly it will go fully dark. He's right on board with the Williams as he goes through the motions here on this outlap. Not actually the first driver out of the pits. We missed Connor Stewart-Woodard, who's going through into Sector 2. So those are the 2 drivers that have chosen to go out in these early stages. Everyone on the soft tyres, of course, that's a given nowadays. In qualifying in the F1 games, back in the day, it used to be very important that you set your correct tyres. So you had to start on the tyre that you qualified with, of course, but now that's not a factor anymore. Switching to a free tyre choice a couple of years ago now. As the Alpines are also out. There is a little bit of a championship battle going on there, as they're about 30 points behind Williams with a maximum of 44 available to score. And therefore, if Alpine are to secure a 1-2 here today, then there's a potential that they can affect something on that Williams total. But certainly appears unlikely. Williams actually probably more likely to want to try and attack pass and get that second place wrapped up in the championship as well. 258 points versus 247. So actually, looks like Williams will be second. Purple for Aaron McGurk in the first sector. That much we would have anticipated. Now into the second sector down this straight, using probably a little bit of ERS overtake as he makes his way into not a particularly heavy braking zone anymore. Down to fifth gear as you hit the 50 board. And just caress the throttle on the way out of the corner onto the curb on the right-hand side. Now a very tricky braking zone here into the right-hander. You can brake far later than you'd think at that part of the circuit. And this is a decent lap from Aaron McGurk. As I say, he has a little bit of oversteer that just causes him to struggle a little bit through the final corner. Connor Stewart-Wood is onto pole position, but Aaron McGurk very quickly knocks him off the perch. 1 minute 23.6. And a decent lap, but I wonder if our champion-elect Andreas Senkovan can go any better. Purple in the second sector, looking at very strong indeed. Again, hit the brakes very, very late. Right-hander, then onto the throttle into the third sector. Lewis Smith goes to the top of the timing tower, but Andreas Senkovan will surely knock him off, and does by 0.5 of a second. So the man who has already won the championship, providing Wongsvat Reversi doesn't arrive in the next 5 minutes, goes to the top of the timing tower very early on indeed in this session. 13 minutes still to go. And drag in Owen Boldero to discuss a little bit about how this race is going to unfold. Owen, obviously the championship no longer a storyline in this one. However, tyre strategy definitely will be. 29 laps this race. What's the call around Abu Dhabi?
So at Abu Dhabi, tyre wear is actually not too bad on the mediums and the hards. On the softs, it's roughly about 8% a lap, so it's fairly high on the softs, but softs in this game are not a particularly good race tyre. They're literally just a qualifying tyre or a tyre you put on for a late safety car. That's all they're for in this game. Whereas mediums and hards, on mediums, it's roughly, if you're driving normally, about 3.5%. And on hards, it's going to be 2%. So the tyre strategy, realistically, mediums could go a long way, really long way if you wanted them to. But my expected strategies are either going to be medium hard and hard medium. And I reckon if you're starting on the mediums, you'll come in sort of lap 10 to 12. The optimal, I'd say, would be 10 or 11. I feel like 12 would be a little bit too late, just because whilst those hards are still out, you want to have as many laps as you can to build an undercut. And in the hards, I personally wouldn't recommend starting on the hards, because you're going to be staying out to about lap 18, 19. And you've got about 7, 8 laps maybe where the people behind you are on faster tyres. So I personally start on mediums and then go to hards, because I just feel like there's too many laps and you lose too much time on that hard tyre to make it back in the 10 laps on the mediums.
Well, thank you, Owen, as Ethan Shackleton starts his first qualifying lap of the evening. Maybe eyeing up a victory here in Abu Dhabi is the former series champion. And he is purple in the first sector, though I don't think everyone's first run here has been particularly fantastic. Senkovan, Smith and McGurk all victims of that. So should be an opportunity here for Senkovan if he can spot his braking marker as someone's taken the 100 board out. Should be a good opportunity to go onto provisional pole position, and that first sector was absolutely stunning. This second sector hasn't been too bad either. He'll need to pick his braking point perfectly for the left-hander. Dips it in and seems to be just about okay here. Does Shackleton? We'll wait for that timing line to really see what the lap times are saying. Deep now the third sector. Williams just in front of him of coming into the pit lane. In fact, starting his second run of the day. So Shackleton up to the line. Particularly impressive lap time, 1:23.8. So he goes into fourth. And McGurk now on his second run of the day, and he's purple in the first sector, 0.2 of a second up on where he needs to be. Absolutely in full attack. We watched McGurk's lap and he did make a couple of mistakes. There's plenty of time on the table for him. Just locks up a touch into the chicane and maybe struggles to get the power down a little bit as well. But still looking decent is Aaron McGurk. Keep an eye on the end of the straight. That's where the timing line is for the second sector. We'll see if it flashes up purple again. And it doesn't flash up purple, but it does flash up with a 0.2 of a second improvement. We know he's probably lost about 0.2 as well from that slide he had on his first qualifying run. So, in theory, should be within about a 0.1 of a second of Andreas Engelmann here if he just gets the last few corners hooked up correctly. And looks like he's doing exactly that. Here goes Aaron McGurk. Is it going to be a pole position lap time for your race winner last time out as he makes his way up to the line? It's basically exactly what I said. And he is a 0.1 of a second off of Andreas Engelmann, but crucially into a second position. So that's not to be sniffed at all from Aaron McGurk. Luca Serencini out on his first out lap of the day. Meandering through that first sector. Go back to Andreas Engelmann, who's on a lap here, but not improving in the first sector and has invalidated as soon as we've cut pictures of him. So that's not ideal for Senkovan. What can Lewis Smith do? That's the question. He's purple in the first sector. Alpine need a big performance. And Lewis Smith hasn't really had any big performances so far this season. Can he muster something up here in the final race of the year? Of course, news has been announced that Championship will be returning in February, at least provisionally, for the next season of the league. So this is the last hurrah for 2024. Lewis Smith then really hoping that he can create something here on his second qualifying run of the day. 1:23.0 to beat and up to the line. Lewis Smith can't quite get there. Stays in third, does improve by 0.2 of a second, but ultimately stays in that third spot. Now Luca Serencini is trying to get himself on the board. Will be tough for him. Feathering that throttle a touch through the left-hander. Looking for that sector 3 timing line. Sector 2 timing line, I was going to say. He was not particularly impressive there. So, Serencini going up to the line will probably be in the 24s, I'd imagine. It's 23.7s, actually. He's not a million miles off. Ethan Shackleton is into the top 5. Here's the two brothers in Connor and Kyle Stewart Woodard, who are 6th and 7th at the moment. Both drivers not quite able to get into the 23s as everyone else has been. I'm sure they'll improve on their final runs. Andreas Senkovan is on what's probably his penultimate run of the day so far. Going through the final sector now. Hoping to be the first driver to get into the 1 minute 22s is Andreas Schenkovan. Through the final corner he goes. And the car is set alight for Andreas Schenkovan, looking for that 50 board. He gets it almost perfectly into the first corner. Now just trying to hook this up beautifully. He's purple in the first sector, but only by 0.08 of a second. His first run currently has been the fastest run of the day so far. This is the third. Flying down the back straight. This is where most of the overtaking opportunities will be done as we head on into that race in about 10 minutes' time. Andreas Schenkovan has this hooked up beautifully for now. Looks for that sector 2 timing line. He's a 1/10 of a second faster, so right now looking to get into the 22s. On board again with Schenkovan. Very lucky not to invalidate there on the inside line. Hooks up the final corner very nicely. Is in a 22. It's a 22.7. Fantastic lap time from Andreas Schenkovan. Really, really impressive stuff. And the only driver to sit in those 22-second lap times of the day so far. However, Aaron McGurk will be trying to come back at him. He's a 1/10 of a second faster. That being said, has invalidated. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him straight into the pit lane. That's exactly what we do see. So he'll be waiting for his final run. I would anticipate that Schenkovan will be done now. That will be his qualifying session over. Similarly, Lewis Smith is jumping the gun slightly early for his final run. Right on board with the nose of the Alpine as he weaves down the straight, almost losing the car actually. Just getting ready for this final attack. Maybe one final sensational pole position from Lewis Smith is on the cards here. I'd like to hope so. Right on board with the Alpine as he makes his way into the first corner. This is the final run for Lewis Smith, you would think. And he attacks the first corner very, very aggressively. Possibly goes a little bit deep. Lose him a little bit of time compared to Schenkovan, as he's got his teammate, crucially, in Carl Stuart Woodard, waiting to give him a tow. So this could be a bit of strategy here from Alpine as Smith makes his way onto the straight. This is perfectly executed from them. Kyle's got the DRS as well, and he's giving his teammate a tow down the entirety of the straight. This is fantastic stuff. What will that do for Lewis Smith? He gets the braking point perfect into the chicane. Really, really impressive stuff from Alpine. That has helped Lewis Smith. Can he produce the goods? However, he's purple in the second sector, so the tow has helped immensely. But he needs a little bit more to just squeeze out that extra lap time to challenge Andreas Schenkovan. On board with the Alpine that's absolutely on rails here with just 20 seconds or so to go in the qualifying session. This will be his final lap of the day, and he isn't quite able to get it perfect through that final sector and goes third, stays third, 0.4 of a second back from Andreas Schenkovan. Not a million miles off from Aaron McGurk, who starts his final lap as well. Andreas Enkovan is into the pit lane, stays in the pit lane. Ethan Shackleton needs to hurry up here. Really needs to hurry up. He's got 7 seconds to try and get to the line. I think this is going to be qualifying over for Ethan Shackleton, and he's going to stay fourth. He is. There's the checkered flag in the air. Shackleton does receive it. Now Aaron McGurk attacking for one final time this season in qualifying trim in this Williams. And right now, we wait to see that Sector 2 timing line as he looks for where the 100-meter board would be on the right-hand side. Possibly just struggles a tad. Needs 4 turns per second. Keep an eye on that scoreboard in the top right-hand corner. He's purple in the second sector. He's got 1 attempt he needs, but crucially has invalidated. So it's checkered flag out for McGurk as well. We're right on board with Carl Stewart Woodard. Can he get into the 24s on his final run of the session? His brother was able to. Now it's all eyes on Kyle to try and help his teammates out a little bit further at the top of the field. 24.5 is not a bad lap time at all from Carl Stewart Woodard, as Lewis Smith makes his way into the pit lane. But the news here is that Andreas Enkovan, your champion-elect, has taken pole position here in Abu Dhabi. And a really, really good lap time from him as well in order to achieve that. We'll drag in Owen Boldero for his summary on qualifying.
Great qualifying there. Andreas Enkovan producing a fantastic lap. A 22.7 is a brilliant lap. Aaron McGurk bringing a surprise 23.1. I don't think anyone would have put him to get that close to Andreas Enkovan at the start of this qualifying session. But the real surprise, in my opinion, is Lewis Smith with a 23.2 in P3. And another shock was Ethan Shackleton, only down in P5 with a 23.6. Now, I put him on my podium predictions, so I hope I haven't cursed him now in this race. But yeah, an interesting qualifying and a great lap for pole position from Enkovan.
Yeah, so 4 turns per second faster than Aaron McGurk, who's second. It's Lewis Smith in third. Lucas Serancini, a cracking lap in fourth. Ethan Shackleton fifth. And then Kyle and Connor. Connor being sixth, and then Kyle in seventh. I mean, that was fantastic stuff, really. Owen, it has to be said. And I think on the point of Ethan Shackleton, I'd actually like to bring more attention to Lucas Serancini. I mean, that's come out of nowhere. As, I don't think Owen quite realised that I was asking a question. Oh well, we'll get his opinion as we wait to get into this this race. Welcome back, Owen.
Hello, sorry, my equipment was playing up. It was having a weird freeze moment. But what was your question? Sorry.
Just about Lucas Serancini. Where has that pace come from?
I don't think it's necessarily too much of a surprise. He showed some really good pace at Qatar. I think he had to hit an extra time, but he had some really good pace in the early stages of that race in Qatar. But he has also shown slight flashes of pace here and there. Kota as well was another one where he showed some good pace. So he has got the pace. It's just whether he produces it or not. But a great effort from Lucas Serancini, as you said.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Let's get ready to get this race underway then, because we're not a million miles away from it starting now. And just the 2-minute countdown for those who don't know. The drivers have 2 minutes to get all their strategies sorted out. So that's what we're currently waiting for. And as I said, just waiting for all of the drivers to be ready and raring to go. As we'll go back to your predictions this race then. Owen, prediction. We saw your podium prediction earlier on. Has that changed at all after qualifying?
I'm going to go bold, and I'm going to take Shackleton off P3. Sorry, Ethan. and I'm going to stick Luca Serancini there. I've just got this feeling with that good pace he showed, he's going to be able to stay in DRS with Lewis Smith, and he'll pull something out of the bag and get a podium. So don't quote me on it, but that's what I think will happen. Otherwise, my podium predictions are the same.
Excellent stuff. So we're now waiting for all the drivers to be ready to go, which is quite a long wait, it has to be said, when you're getting into the final race of the season. Let's go to the Constructors' Championship then for a moment, Owen, and discuss Williams versus Haas. Williams requiring about 9 points, I believe, so should have that on wrap pretty easily. But actually, let's go to the more pressing detail here, which I think is going to be the the race strategy, because all the tyres up on your screen.
That's interesting. As I said earlier, I wouldn't have started on the hards just because of how long you're going to be stuck on them. You're probably going to be sitting on them till about lap 19 or 20. So, and the mediums, they're probably going to be boxing about lap 10 to make the most of that undercut. So you're going to have 8 or 9 laps where you're going to be on the faster tyre in comparison to those old hards. So it's going to be an interesting race. Can Lewis Smith and Luca Serancini and Ethan Shackleton even make the most of those mediums in the early stages, go absolutely all out for 10 laps, build a gap, and then go in for the hards and see what they can do on the undercut? It's going to be an interesting strategy game today, I can tell you that.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting strategy game last week as well, so no changes here. And how important is avoiding track limit penalties going to be here? How easy is it to get them here?
Abu Dhabi, it's fairly standard. I personally don't struggle, but there is one thing I will bring up, and I think this will be very relevant later. It's a weird glitch to do with Abu Dhabi, and it's been in the last 2 games. So for some reason, when you go in to the pit lane of Abu Dhabi, you don't want to touch the inside curb because it will give you a track limit warning, and sometimes even a double warning. Even if you don't go over the white line, if you just touch the curb, it will give you a track limit warning. Absolutely no idea why, but it does that, and I reckon someone will do it. I reckon someone will either get a warning or a penalty from it. So we'll see, but I think that could be relevant come the pit stop phase.
Well, let's wait and see. Drivers in position, and we are ready to go for one final time in the APC in 2024. Eyes on the lights. It is lights out and away we go here for the season finale, and it's a good start for Andreas Senkovan, but an even better start for Aaron McGurk. Andreas on the outside line, but is under so much pressure here from the Williams, looking for second position, but I think Andrea just about squeezes in to that first spot. Now we're right on board with better tyres of Lewis Smith as they make their way down into the hairpin for the first time in this race. Remember, DRS not enabled on this first lap. It will be enabled on the second lap of the race. So for now, Lewis Smith just going to have to rely on his pure pace to try and get himself past those 2 drivers in front of him who are on worse tyres at the moment as they snake down into the chicane for the first time. McGurk has a little bit of a look, but eventually everyone just squeezes through as there's a move in the background. That's Luca Serancini who dived down the inside of, I believe it was Lewis Smith, and Lewis Smith has lost out on all of it. So out of nowhere, decided that suddenly Luca Serancini just wanted to absolutely scream down the inside line. Now Ethan Shackleton's on the outside line of Serancini, who makes a little bit of a mistake, and now all of a sudden, from last on the grid, Kyle Stewart-Woodard is into the top 5 running as Serancini loses yet another position. He's gone all the way down into 7th, so that really strong qualifying performance, unfortunately, has undone itself in the first lap of this race already for Luca Serancini. So DRS enabled at the end of this lap. That dive bomb has taken Lewis Smith out of DRS range of the guys immediately in front of him as Andreas Senkovan takes the fastest lap of the race, though we'd expect that much really in the first part of this race. And now we'll keep an eye on himself and McGurk, who no doubt will be trading positions here in the first few laps of this race, as they did last time out. If you think back to Qatar, that's literally how they decided to run it for the first few laps of the race. That time they were racing reversely. This time it's Lewis Smith. DRS enabled. We should be about to see our first change of the lead of the day as McGurk goes down the inside line. Should have a pretty simple job of getting through. The question is, does Senkovan get the DRS to come back at him? DRS enabled for the Ferrari. He goes to the outside line and should take the lead of the race back, and does. This battling has brought Lewis Smith back into contention, who's, as you can see, looking to pit around lap 13 to 16 according to our race strategy. It does mean that he's now right on the back of our leading pair, or right on board with the Alpine driver. Just trying to make use of those tyres while he's got the advantage, as he sets the fastest lap of the race as well in the process. McGurk, the fastest of our top two here in race 14 of the Almost Pro Championship season. Now into the hairpin they go. McGurk should be battling once again this time by, and should probably be taking the lead again this time by. We'll wait and see. DRS enabled. The two brothers, by the way, battling in the background, as McGurk chooses not to use DRS down this straight. He's going to play a couple of games and use DRS on the next straight instead, so that's an interesting ploy. As now uses all of the power available to him, does Aaron McGurk, to absolutely fly by, as Lucas Serencini has made a mistake and is now fully out of contention in that battle for 5th position, where Connor and Kyle are battling along. Andreas Senkovan into 2nd position, then Lewis Smith just stalking at the moment. Probably needs to drive a little bit more aggressively than he is right now to really put pressure on our top two, because right now I don't think this is any good to him at all. So lap 4 of the race, race leader is Aaron McGurk, who is purple in the final sector. He is the fastest man at the moment on the circuit, barring the medium tyre runner of Lewis Smith, of course. And now, are there going to be any games for Senkovan as we make our way into the hairpin? Sun continues to set. Of course, we'll be fully night running very, very soon here in Abu Dhabi. There's DRS ablaze for the Ferrari. Is there going to be a move? He's on the inside line. McGurk tries to stomach it and just hold it on the outside line, but isn't able to do so. Now gets the better exit as he just squared up the corner a little bit better. Lewis Smith will be getting involved as well, and all of a sudden is involved as he looks to try and attack Senkovan now into the left-hander. It does down the inside line. Is a dive for Lewis Smith, and he just about squeezes through into 2nd position. That is a huge overtake for him. Very, very important that he got that done at some point in the opening stages of this race. And now he can really start to put pressure on our race leader here into the next couple of laps. We'll drag in Owen Boldero to discuss his thoughts on that overtake. But I think my assessment of that, Owen, is that that is hugely important.
Yeah, very important for his race. Those medium tyres won't last forever. They're probably, come lap 10, going to be around 35%. But that's big for his race, because now, as you said, he can put pressure for the lead. But the question is, if he does get the lead, can he make the most of those better tyres at the moment and possibly break DRS? Because the hards will come back at him towards the end of the stint, so we will see.
So we are into the DRS zone. Thank you very much, Owen. We'll see the battle for the lead, as does Lewis Smith want to make the move here. He does. He's just going to use those medium tyres to their advantage and get ahead before he even hits the brakes for the chicane. Now trying to do a little bit of defending, as that extra speed for Aaron McGurk on the exit is going to help him get back into the lead of the race. He powers down the inside line. Andreas Senkovan leaves Lewis Smith as the only man without DRS, which means he just gets swallowed up and now back into 3rd position. So it's a bit of a cat and mouse game, Owen.
Yeah, I think probably wouldn't have tried to overtake where Lewis Smith did. I would have waited to the second DRS straight just so then you've not got a second DRS straight after. And because of him not waiting, he ended up going back down to third. But cat and mouse game at the moment, as you said, I think the top two at the moment won't be too worried about Lewis Smith. First of all, he's dropped out of DRS, whether he's made a mistake or not, I'm not too sure. But they are also on the inferior tyres at the moment. And if they're able to keep him where they want him, keep him at bay, then they won't lose too much time on the undercut, and they should be able to catch him in the second stint.
So Smith has fallen out of DRS range now. It means that keeping an eye on the battle for the leaders. We've got a virtual safety car. As I wonder what this is for. It's for this man. We literally just cut away from the pictures. And it's Kyle Stewart Woodard. Got into the wall and lost his front wing. And crucially, this virtual safety car is going to happen probably for the entirety of his move back to the pits. Well, Owen, I was just about to remove your graphic from the screen, but we've now got an interesting strategy moment. Theoretically, this safety car will still be out by the time the drivers make their way through the final corner. Is this an opportunity to pit?
If you're on the mediums right now, go in. Hards will make it. As I said, the degradation is about 2%, 3% on hards, somewhere in that ballpark, depending on how hard you're driving them. Oh no, the VSC has ended and Serencini gets a drive-through. So no, don't pit. Don't pit now.
Yeah, so poor old Serencini's day goes from bad to much, much worse as now top two continue to pass along. So interestingly, the safety car doesn't allow, as Serencini now retires, interestingly the safety car doesn't allow Kyle to get back to the pits. With Serencini retiring though, that could potentially cause a safety car. I don't think it will now that the yellow flags have been flown. So we keep an eye on our top two once again as yellow flags sector 1 and 2 is that Ethan Shackleton? It is. He's made a mistake as well. This could be another VSC if he's not careful. I think they'll get away with it. But just made a mistake, and now a lot of hard work that Shackleton has done has gone. Gives Connor Stewart Woodard the chance to go into 4th position, and Shackleton at the moment, front wing end plate on the left-hand side is off completely. So he has made a meal of that slightly. Now Andreas Senkman looking for the lead of the race, but look at this, he's so far back, probably won't be able to make a move this time. By old Willie, it's so difficult here in Abu Dhabi to decide whether someone's going to be able to make a move or not. And looks like he hasn't this time. We're waiting a few moments for that. Remember, pit window for the hards, for the mediums even, opening relatively soon. This will be opening at around lap 13 to 15, we would anticipate, to get the mediums to the end of the race. But we keep watching these guys battling just ahead. And at the moment, Andreas Senkovan is really pushing Aaron McGurk. He makes a mistake into the first corner, but the problem is you don't really want to overtake before you get to the end of that straight, as Serencini's unfortunately had his season come to an end now with that retirement. See him leaving the session on the bottom of your screen. Now, does McGurk, or does Senkovan even, play any games here? Does he use DRS down this straight to try and get himself past Aaron McGurk? He's got so much speed. He is using DRS, and he is going to try and go for the move, but it's a very risky ploy for Andreas Senkovan. We'll give Aaron McGurk the DRS to breeze back by on the next corner. And the thing is, both of them are absolutely saving a ton of ERS. So it's a relatively even playing field, and they just ping pong once again with McGurk looking to make it 2 wins on the bounce here towards the end of the season. Told me that actually Abu Dhabi isn't necessarily one of his favourite tracks. And that might potentially be disproven by what we've seen so far in this race, as this is a battle to be keeping an eye on. As we'll bring Owen back in as we head into the what will be a third distance in the race. And Owen, we really are in just a bit of a holding pattern, aren't we, in this race, where they are just ping-ponging at the very top of the field. It's not really much we can do in terms of assess this.
Yeah, this is the calm before the storm. You knew it was sort of going to go this way when you saw Aaron McGurk and Chenkovan go on those hards. You sort of just knew they weren't going to be able to be separated in the first sort of 10, 15 laps. The only way these two are going to be separated, I think, is if one of them goes for the undercut, so go a lap earlier than the other. That's the only way I see these two being separated, because they are running very similar on pace at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. Now, the next question is Senkovan tries to defend this, but will have no success. Who pits first?
Whoever's behind come about lap probably realistically, you can pit onto hards anytime from about lap 15. But I personally wouldn't recommend it going to mediums on lap 15. So there's sort of a 5-6 lap window where they could go. It could be lap 15, it could be lap 20. I'm really not sure at the moment. And the longer they go, it's either going to be one of them will go this lap or next lap, or one of them will go sort of lap 17, 18. Probably. I'm not 100% sure because Abu Dhabi has such a weird strategy. There's not really one set lap you go in, really.
Well,
Oh no, sorry. What am I on about there? Sorry, mediums go in this lap. Hards carry on to about lap 15, 16. Sort of 15 is probably the earliest you can go in.
Well, thank you, Owen, for the insight. We're watching Ethan Shackleton, as there has been a change at the lead of the race, by the way. Senkovan has got it back, and actually, by the looks of things, it's going to be exactly the same as it was a lap ago. But now Shackleton trying to get himself past Connor Woodard, who seems to not be defending particularly hard for that one. Knows that he's got an opportunity on the next straight anyway. He's right on board of the McLaren driver. He's not using any ERS whatsoever at this point in the race. And look at how much that's affected him. Why is he not using any ERS at all? Very, very interesting. As, looks like Shackleton's able to get through back to the lead of the race. And it's very close between Senkovan and McGurk. Very, very close indeed. Possibly more ping pong once again at the end of this lap, as they did just a few moments ago. It's right on board with Senkovan. As Stuart Woodard is back past Ethan Shackleton, who comes into the pit lane, in fact. New front ring for the stricken Ferrari. And now a chance for Senkovan to take the lead of the race. He didn't make the move in that first sequence of corners. Now has DRS, has plenty of ERS as well. Is there going to be an attack here from Senkovan? Doesn't look like there is. Deep into this slog of a first stint is Senkovan, and just happy to stay behind at the moment. He knows that this race isn't going to be dominated, and the good thing is that if he does stay behind, he can then sort of dictate how the pit stops are going to unfold. But this is the only battle, only gap underneath a second in the entire field at the moment. As Andreas Senkovan, for those who aren't aware, as soon as he started this race, did confirm himself as your 2024 champion. Now just trying to wrap it up with a championship victory, with a race victory as well in the final race this season. As going down to the chat as well, seeing Adam Watson saying next season going to be even closer, which I think is probably going to be true. Also saying hello to Ed Hunter and Carl Stewart Woodard. Here's a move for Andreas Senko, and will go to the outside line and should now take the lead of the race back from Aaron McGurk. Very, very simply done. Sails around the outside line, and now Senkovan needs to get the hammer down. And I wonder, Owen Boldero, if he can maybe start to pull out that advantage and get about a second, and then you think surely he goes on to win the race.
Possibly. We will have to see. It's such an awkward phase of the race. Abu Dhabi, as I said, has such distinct pit box with the tyres. So hards, any time from about 15 to 20, they're going to be going in. Mediums, I'm surprised that Lewis Smith is still out on those mediums. I would have gone in a couple of laps ago, to be completely honest, to make the most of those hard tyres and to get closer to the two that started on hards. But yeah, if he manages to break DRS, then he has a very good chance of winning the race. It'd just be a case of making no mistakes.
Well, make no mistakes indeed, but that hasn't quite unfolded because Aaron McGurk is right back on Andreas Senko. You can hear him just backing out of the throttle as to not make the move into this part of the track. Appreciates that the second DRS zone is far more fruitful. Here he goes, he'll sail on by now. And plenty of ERS saved up for both of them. Means that they can just continue this sort of battling in place. Almost collecting the back of each other there into the braking zone. That's not very good. We'll need to get their heads down. Trying to avoid that happening as you see Senkovan all over the back of McGurk. For someone who's not had the absolute pace on his rival for the majority of this race, suddenly he's looking very, very racy. As of course, we'll want at least a podium to round off what has been a championship winning season. Arguably helped in the championship by Reversi not being here for a couple of rounds of the season. Is there going to be the move this time by for Andreas Senko? And again, he's going to go down the inside and do it into the chicane. So no major issues there for him, but it will give Aaron McGurk an opportunity to get back past him. And the next sequence of corners. Would anticipate that McGurk will go straight through here. Back on the outside line he goes, or will Senkovan try and defend it? He does, but McGurk's just got so much speed on the outside line. No major problems there. Senkovan then back into second position. Lewis Smith onto hard tyres. So he has now pitted. You can see everyone in the field actually on a hard tyre. So that was on the last lap that Lewis Smith came into the pit lane, which means Owen might have an opinion on that. And how do you assess that, Owen?
I'd say it's probably a little bit too late. I have touched upon it. I personally think to get the most out of those hards, because they'll only be, even if you pit on lap 10, they'll only probably be on about 45%, 50% come the end of the race. So you're going to have a lot of fair degradation almost if you pit this late on those hard tyres. So I would have gone in earlier just to make the most and to go for that undercut on the leaders, because he was hanging around the area of sort of 8 seconds behind. And if you box onto those hards, he may have been able to catch that on the better tyres. So yeah, I just think it's just a little bit too late from Lewis Smith.
Yeah, absolutely. And he needs about 8 seconds or so to catch back up to those guys at the front of the field. As we see our race leaders still looking for that opportunity to pit, which shouldn't be too far from now, of course. Looking about 4 laps or so, as Lewis Smith is absolutely flying, it should be mentioned as well. As he was purple on that last lap and should be purple on this lap as well, you would anticipate. As the hards will have a fair amount of traction in them for a good majority of this race, actually. Heading into deep into the second half now. Lap 16 of 29. And looks like Lewis Smith has not gone faster that lap, but just yellow flags actually. Yellow flags for, oh dear, for Carl Stewart Woodard, who has to get himself back going again. That is a second front wing issue for him in the short duration of this race so far, so that is not ideal at all. He'll be making another unscheduled pit stop. Maybe back onto mediums, actually, to go to the end of the race from here, if he does indeed decide to do that. I think what we can bet pretty safely on is the fact that Kyle will, at some point in this race, go on to softs to try and get his final fastest lap point of the season. Tries it at virtually every single race we have, so won't be surprised to see that happen, as we can ride on board with Andreas Senkovan. Lap 17 of this race. Bit of a mistake from Senkovan means that McGurk just disappears down the road slightly. But expect that to all change as they get to the DRS zone. This might be a bit of a better move, better opportunity for Senkovan than before. As he doesn't make the move here. Sensible enough. First time penalty of the day, by the way, goes out to Connor Stewart Woodard. But now here we'll try and make the move. Crucially, keep an eye on Lewis Smith. He's 23 seconds back, so this is very important that these guys do start to gain the pace, as Senkovan now gets through to the lead of the race. 24 seconds means that, as I see it, when they come into the pit lane, Lewis Smith is going to be right on them by the time that they exit. Owen Boldero, is that how you see it?
Pardon, sorry, my audio cut. What did you say, sorry?
That 23 seconds is the gap now. By the time that these guys pit, as Senkovan does come into the pit lane on this lap, means that Lewis Smith is going to be right on them. So Senkovan's into the pit lane.
I believe the pit lane here is about 21 seconds, so I believe that Lewis Smith will come out, they'll come out ahead of Lewis Smith by about 2.5, 3 seconds, somewhere in that ballpark, as he picks up a track limit penalty.
He does, and you can see him making his way through into the first corner as Senkovan is going underneath the circuit to get himself out of pit exit. And where is Lewis Smith then is the question. He's making a mistake at the first corner, so Andreas Senkovan will actually pretty comfortably be ahead, as Carl Stewart Woodard has got his blue flags and will go over to the left-hand side. Medium tyres for Andreas Senkovan then, so the gamble hasn't quite worked for Lewis Smith, and unfortunately it was 4 seconds that he ended up losing out on. And that is probably the race over for him. So this is now the undercut, of course, for Senkovan. How does McGurk respond? That's the question we'll be answering very shortly. And Owen, if you are Aaron McGurk, how are you responding to this? Are you coming in this lap?
I'd be staying out. I'd stay out probably to about lap 20, build what's called a tyre delta, where you're on the inferior tyres for a few laps. Oh, no, he is going to come in. But what I'd do is I'd stay out and build a tyre delta to come back at him in the final sort of 9 laps of the race. But he's coming in now. He's going to respond straight away. So let's see what the undercut is like.
Probably the safer option for Aaron McGurk, realistically speaking. Limits the immediate damage, and now it's going to be very close. The Senkovan's flying with a purple sector 3. This undercut should theoretically be quite powerful. McGurk is making his way around the chicane. It's going to be over a second, I would believe, as you see McGurk nowhere to be seen. He's a couple of seconds down, in fact, now on Andreas Senkovan. So, crucially, Senkovan now has 3.4 second advantage, and there isn't much of a tyre delta, is there, Owen? That is possibly game, set, and match.
Yeah, probably is game, set, and match. A lap is probably only about 3% tyre wear, so that's not going to do... It's not going to be worth a massive amount, let's put it that way. So, as long as Senkovan makes no mistakes now, this race is as good as won for him.
Absolutely. So our newly crowned champion is in position to take another victory. He'll win the championship by 26 points if he is to keep this 3.2 second advantage exactly where it is, and he's got 10 laps in order to just cruise around here and make himself crowned properly as the champion of APC. Will be his first championship. His teammate, of course, a champion in his own right, but not this season. Hasn't quite been there this season as Ethan Shackleton. He makes his way around this 19th lap. His fastest lap goes to Andreas Senkovan, 1:25.3. But is Aaron McGurk going to go any quicker as he makes his way up to the line? I think he did not quite go completely quicker on that last lap, though. He was purple in the third sector, which is why the gap came down a little bit. It's 2.8 seconds. McGurk will be using the majority of his battery, I would imagine. As you can see already, he's in hot lap mode, so he's just looking to get into DRS range again of Andreas Senkovan, hoping as well that potentially he can save a bit of ERS once he is in that window. As unfortunately, in the battles of the rest of the field, that is kind of the only thing we can really keep an eye on at the moment. And 2.9 seconds, it's a tall order for Aaron McGurk, particularly with what we've seen so far. It's lap 20 of 29. We'll drag back in Owen. And Owen, while we see this continue to unfold, how have you seen this season in your eyes? How's the season been?
A season of two halves is the best way to put it. The first half of the season was very much Wongsurat Reversi's story. It looked like he was a runaway train. It just looked like he was going to absolutely dominate the entire season. But the second half, Senkovan sort of started to come back at him. Of course, he was helped by Reversi not racing a couple of races. But even when Reversi was racing, Senkovan was slowly chipping away. For instance, Brazil, Qatar, he just slowly chipped away and he got himself back in that fight. And of course, with Reversi not racing today, he was able to win the championship. So that's how I see it at the top, a story of two halves. But sort of a little bit further below, it's sort of been a quieter season. It's been a little bit of a quieter season. But as we discussed earlier, there's going to be a little bit of movement for second place. Obviously, Williams are going to overtake Haas for that second place in the constructor standings, which, to be completely honest, I don't think many people were paying much attention to, just because it was overshadowed by the top fight between Ferrari and originally Haas for that constructor standings. We weren't really paying much attention to Williams, who were sort of quietly picking up a couple of race wins, picking up the podiums, and picking up good points, and just slowly gained and gained and gained and gained. Whilst Haas didn't have the drivers, Williams was sort of slowly chipping away and getting themselves back in that fight. And they are deservedly going to take, at the moment, provisionally, second place in the constructors. So yeah, there's been a lot more movement at the top than there has at the bottom, but nonetheless a very good season. And hopefully, with a couple of months until the next one, we're going to get some new drivers in, and we'll have much better attendance and a very, very good racing still for the next season.
So we've got 1.3 seconds between our top two, so this race could yet explode in the final 6 laps or so. But you've seen the calendar for next season, Owen, or you've seen the provisional calendar for next season. I know you thought, I know what your opinion is on it. What is your opinion on it?
I really like it. I think it's a brilliant calendar. So my favorite races in that calendar being Jeddah, which is funnily enough going to be the 100th race that APC has seen. Austria always produces good racing. The Netherlands, really fun circuit. Singapore, not one many people like, but one I really like. And then Qatar. Qatar is such good circuit. As I said when we raced there last week, it's a driver's circuit. So there's a lot of really good circuits on there, and there's not actually any circuits I'd say I dislike. There are some I dislike driving just because of tires are weird, such as Hungary. It's really hard to keep tire temperatures down at Hungary for some weird reason. But it's a really good calendar in as much as pretty much every circuit is going to deliver excitement in some way.
Crucially, Aaron McGurk is flirting with that 1 second delta to Andreas Senkovan ahead. It's now 9 tenths per second. He won't have DRS now, I don't think. As you can see, no, he doesn't. He doesn't have a lot of ERS either, by the way. He's really close to completely running that battery flat, but it's 9 tenths per second. He's going to have DRS on the next lap. So now, gloves are off again. And McGurk, who has used a great deal of battery charges, in fact, so has Andreas Senkovan, as he's been trying to keep that gap up. It means that now the DRS is enabled. He can use a couple of laps to charge his battery. Already up to 16%. And just kind of proud. Start to battle with Andreas Senkovan. So, Owen, how do you manage this if you're in Senkovan's shoes? How do you manage it if you're in McGurk's shoes?
ERS management is the best way to put it. The nature of Abu Dhabi is it's a circuit due to how long the 2 long DRS straights. You need a lot of ERS for defending. And the layout of it means there's not really that many places you could manage. One place you can manage is turn 1 here, which we're now coming up to. You could turn it off and then turn it back on exit. But the place I'd say you really want to manage through is turn 10 through to turn 16, which is that tricky complex of sector 3, and then you turn it back on at the exit of the really tight section is where I'd sort of manage my ERS and gain a little bit back, because you're going to need ERS to defend just because of the nature of Abu Dhabi.
On board with Aaron McGurk, who won't want to make the move on this particular sequence, but he's in hot lap mode and will be looking to make a move on the next straight, which he does. Ethan Shackleton has stopped out on the circuit. We'll go to that in a moment as we see a really crucial change for the lead of the race, as around the outside goes Aaron McGurk, and from 3.5 seconds down is back into the lead of the contest with just about 5 laps to go. That is a huge development in the closing stages of this one. So Senkovan will be wanting to keep him honest for the rest of this race. Both of them now saving ERS, as you saw flash up on your screen there for a moment. The ERS situation of Senkovan at over 50%. It was about 20 a couple of laps ago. As we now have yellow flags, and it's, by the looks of things, going to be Carl again. What a tricky race it has been for him. And he's hit the wall once again. This time it's the right-hand end plate that he's had scrubbed off. Senkovan then makes his way into the chicane, won't be making the move this time, and look how early he is on the brakes, just wanting to set himself up for that move on McGurk out of the chicane, and will do exactly that. McGurk's got a bit of a better exit, but Senkovan's got plenty of ERS to work with here, and we could see the lead return into Andreas Senkovan's favour here, and he won't do so just yet. So on lap 25 of the race, we'll have 3 laps to go when we get to the line. Excuse me, 4 laps to go when we get to the line. You'd think maybe Senkovan wants to be behind on that final lap. Owen, would you agree with that?
Yeah, you probably do want to be behind coming into that second DRS zone. But for Aaron McGurk, it might be worth saving all his battery and going for one big push lap to try and break that DRS, because he looks like the faster driver right now. And obviously he does have one lap fresher tyres, although that won't make much of a difference. It does make a difference. So it might be worth sort of saving a little bit of ERS and going for one big push lap. See if he can break that toe. If he can't, then he just sort of drop back and carry on as is. But it might be worth a go if he hasn't tried it already.
Well, that's something we'll keep an eye on as 4 laps to go in the race. Senkovan once again will not make a move down the inside of the chicane. He has far better places to try and make a move, this being one of them. Is there going to be an attack from Andreas Senkovan this time by? He's got the slipstream, has the DRS as well, is not using any of his overtake just yet. In fact, he's not using any ERS whatsoever. He's got McGurk exactly where he wants him. We're very naive to say this was game, set and match. 3 laps to go at the line. Question is when he goes to attack. What's McGurk's situation looking like? His ERS is very, very healthy indeed. Is this going to be the lap where he just tries to break that toe? The problem is Senkovan can come with him with the amount of ERS that he's been able to save as well. So he just needs to be alert to that being the situation. Both of them playing a bit of a cat and mouse game at the moment of just waiting for each other to go. They've been so evenly matched all the way throughout this race that it's just helped them make this a very, very fascinating contest. So here with 3 laps to go, Senkovan's in the DRS once again, and once again is not going to even think about a move down the inside, but he'll increase that pressure, just show his nose. Keep Aaron McGurk honest, who hasn't been able to break the toe at all throughout this one. And now makes a mistake as well. Could this be a move for Andreas Senkovan? Is he going to go for it? He goes down the inside line on the second from penultimate lap in the race. Senkovan goes to the inside and takes the lead of the race back. McGurk will try and fight it on the outside line, but to no avail. And now Andreas Senkovan is your race leader with 2 laps to go in the contest. But I dare say I highly doubt it is over just yet. McGurk's got plenty of DRS, and now what does Senkovan do? Does he decide, actually, I'm going to go for it now, try and break that DRS heading into the final lap, or does he let McGurk back through even for a move on the final lap of the race? We'll wait and see. This is all going to come down to that traction zone out of the chicane on the final lap. I can guarantee it, as McGurk is all over the back of Andreas Senkovan. It wouldn't surprise me if McGurk decided, actually, I'm not going to make a move on this lap either. They've got 31 seconds to Lewis Smith behind, so that's not even a concern for these guys. Senkovan makes a mistake. This gives Aaron McGurk an opportunity, but he won't even use DRS, I'd imagine. Let's look at him feathering the feathering the button down the straight. I've never seen that before. That would break it in real life. Now does McGurk go for the move? This is the penultimate lap of the race. So is there going to be a little bit of a game plan here for Aaron McGurk, who won't use a lot of ERS? There is going to be a game plan. Look at that, as he's just not wanting to go for the move. And that means that Andreas Senkovan is going to have to use quite a significant amount of ERS on the final lap of the race, as both Kyle and Connor Stewart-Woodard into the pit lane. They're going to look to go for one big final push to take the put the soft tyres on, I would imagine. There you go. You can see that Lewis Smith as well has got soft tyres on, looking for the fastest lap of the race. There's going to be a little mini shootout in the background as well. So here we go. Final lap of the season. It's McGurk versus your new champion, Andreas Senkovan. And this is as close as these two have been in the last few races. That's for certain. McGurk, an unlikely championship challenger, wasn't really in the championship fights, but certainly shown that he was the kind of dark horse, and into next season definitely has an opportunity, but would so dearly love a win here, as well as to secure second place for his team as well in the constructors. As to the outside line he goes. Senkovan is going to defend. Is there going to be a bit of a DRS game here? Does he want to back out of it nice and early? They'll both go on the brakes so early into the chicane. No one wants to give up the DRS, but it's going to go the way of Aaron McGurk as now he looks to attack. He's on the outside line. It will be Senkovan using all of his battery now available to him as they're side by side. Up into the left-hander, Andreas Senkovan loses out on the lead of the race, and Aaron McGurk for now looks like he's going to take victory on this final lap, but Senkovan's still got a little bit left in the tank. Can he come back at any point in the final few corners? It looks like his luck might be running out. There's just a couple of tenths per second between the two of them as Aaron McGurk makes his way deep into Sector 3 here. 2 corners to go in the season as well. And it is Aaron McGurk who takes a sensational victory here in the final race of the season. But we can crown now officially that Andreas Senkovan is the champion in Season 7 of the APC. What a season it has been for him. Lewis Smith is trying to set the fastest lap of the race on the final lap of the race. It was always a tall order for Alpine to try and get into that top 3. But not to be in the end. He finishes 3rd. Still a very good performance from him. Ethan Shackleton will be 4th. And Owen Boldero, thoughts on those final couple of laps?
Aaron McGurk played that absolutely perfectly. He played that how I would have played that. That was decided. He sort of half attacked into turn 5 and 6. He sort of put his nose there, which made Andreas Senkovan hesitate and sort of messed up his exit, which allowed him to get the better exit and then get alongside comfortably on the second DRS straight. So, massive well done to Aaron McGurk. He played that absolutely beautifully. But, of course, well done to our champion, Andreas Senkovan. And I can say this now. On the form that was put out at the start of the season for who we thought was going to be champion, I put Andreas Senkovan. And I'm not joking, I put Senkovan. Because at the time, we didn't know the pace of Montserrat Reversi. So, in my mind, Andreas Senkovan was going to go for it and was going to win it. And he did.
And he did indeed. What a performance all season long for Andreas Senkovan. I certainly had absolutely zero inkling that he was going to actually get that 50-point gap down. It was up to 70 points at one point, by the way. But boy, he did. As you see, Aaron McGurk's avatar lifting the trophy for a win here in Abu Dhabi. No real complaints there from him. What a performance in the late stage of the season from Aaron McGurk. Hopefully we can bring him in for an interview in a couple of moments' time. But for the final time this season, your race results. Aaron McGurk taking victory 8 tenths per second ahead of Andreas Senkovan. It's Lewis Smith in 3rd with Ethan Shackleton and Connor Stewart-Woodard, your top 5, followed by Carl Stewart-Woodard. And then your only DNF of the race was Luca Serencini. So slightly disappointing for him. But Ferrari Constructors Champions at the end of the season, it is Andreas Senkovan, your Drivers' Champion. And I'm delighted to say we can drag in Aaron McGurk for an interview on what is, Aaron, your 2nd race win in as many weeks.
Yeah, can you hear me okay? Yeah.
We can hear you okay, absolutely.
Yeah, it was just a fun battle with me and Andrea. I just it all came down to actually the tire strategy menu. I was waiting to see what tire Andrea picked, and he picked the hards late, so I had to like flick through all the menus really quick to choose the hards, because I feel like if Andrea had started on the hards and I was on the mediums, he would have stayed with me on that stint, and then whenever I switched the hards, a bit like what you seen in Kota, where he just had way more pace than me because he's on a better strategy. So I was just trying to be on the exact same strategy as him so I could really manage the race. And it ended up working. I wasn't sure when I was trying the overcut, but I wasn't sure I would have the pace or not. So it was good to find out that I did actually have the pace to catch Andrea.
Yeah, well, that was my next question. We thought, excuse me, that it was completely game, set, and match towards the end of that one. How on earth did you manage to gain 3 seconds on him?
Oh well, I knew with the tire wear in Abu Dhabi is horrendous. So if you have very strong mediums at the end, then I would have some pace. But I knew Andrea would also have strong mediums. So it was really, honestly, the race was a bit of a test to myself. I really wanted to see would I have the pace and clean air to catch Andrea, and was able to. But I was surprising how quick it was because there was a lap where it was like through the final sector, there was like 7/10 gains or something. I was like, I wasn't expecting it to be this easy to catch Andrea. I feel like Andrea was just on a Sunday drive today because he's already won the championships. He was like, I'm just gonna have some fun. That's honestly what it felt like the whole race. Like me and him were just having fun. It didn't really feel like either of us were like pushing flat out the whole way.
Well, thank you very much, Aaron. We'll speak to you soon.
Right. Speak to you later. And also congrats to Andrea, deserving champion.
That's wonderful stuff from Aaron McGurk. And speaking of the champion, here he is, Andreas Sankovan. Slightly anticlimactic way to win the championship. However, it was a fantastic season, and even though you couldn't quite top it off with a win here, still a fantastic race, and just overall a 10 out of 10 season from yourself.
Yeah, thank you. After Monza, it was pretty big, steep hill to climb, but yeah, reversing odd racing in Baku and Texas helped pretty big. So.
And what's been the key to the championship here? Because I think it's fair to say, certainly at some of those rounds, Reversi seemed to have the pace on just absolutely everyone. What was the key to hanging on in there and finishing the season at the very top?
I think the consistency in the second part of the season was pretty massive from my part, because in the first half I had some big mistakes in, I think, China, I think in Monza and Silverstone, something like that. I don't remember. It was a pretty long season.
Yeah, well, it definitely was. It feels like it was. It started just yesterday. In terms of next season, then, are you planning to defend your title?
Yeah. Reverse, and I think Aaron will be massive contenders. I think Aaron was maybe the best driver in the second part, basically.
Yeah, I think we touched on that as well. But anyway, thank you very much, Andrea. That was a fantastic season, much deserved champion. We'll speak to you very soon.
Thank you. Bye.
That was Andrea Senkovan, your champion. And now we'll drag in Kyle Stewart Woodard. Kyle, well done once again, first of all, on another fantastic season of the APC. You had a bit of a difficult race in the final one, but overall it's been a successful season.
Trying to work out why I'm on the wrong headset. Sorry, bear with me a second. I'm probably going to sound terrible right now. 1 second.
Well, that was a fantastic start to the interview. While Carl's sorting himself out, Owen, what's your opinion on what McGurk and Sankovan had to say?
Yeah, I think I agree with Andrea. I think Aaron McGurk probably was the biggest surprise of the second half of the season in terms of improvement. We knew Senkovan was in a championship fight, and of course it was a surprise that he managed to pull that gap back. But I think the real surprise was Aaron McGurk's improvement. I think in the first part of the season, he had some pace, but not the consistency to capitalize on it. If you go back and watch a few races, I can think of a couple of examples. Bahrain is one that sticks out to me. He had some good pace, but he obviously had a crash, I believe it was, with, I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Cairo Nichols, actually thinking about it. But he just didn't quite have the consistency, it seems, to challenge the top two. But in the second half of the season, he improved that, fixed it, and was able to fight the top two with success as well. Of course, he beat Andreas Sankovan in the last two races. So yeah, I think he was probably the biggest surprise of the season.
So, Kyle, welcome back to the stream. I'll just repeat my question for those who
Yeah, do
may be
apologise.
just joining us. congratulations, as I said, on another fantastic season. Difficult race for you, though, ultimately, in the last one. But that being said, must be pretty happy with how the league is developing.
You know what? I've hated this game. To be honest, it has been my worst season I think I've ever done. But you know what? Yeah, the league's been great. I think it is a shame we didn't end up with the big climactic finish. You know, after how last season ended, I thought we finally got this 1 point going. It'd be fantastic. So it's a shame that that's happened, but you know these things happen. You know, and it's sad that we ended up obviously with a low number of participants, given we started quite strongly. So. But otherwise, I think it's been great. We've got some really good drivers. Looks like quite a lot of them signed up for next season, starting in February. So yeah, I'm happy with how that's gone. And obviously yourself, Tom. I can't forget you. Thanks for coming on board. I think you've been fantastic.
Well, thank you very much. It's obviously been a pleasure to be here. Heading into next season, then, any exciting announcements you can share with us while we round out the stream?
Have we spoke about the calendar yet? Have we? I don't
We've
know.
touched on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, nothing else other than that really. Obviously, we've got some different tracks next season. We always try and switch them up a little bit. So, Vegas on there, good for some, not so good for others. And yeah, I can't remember what else was on there. Yeah, there was, but yeah, no, I think other than that, nothing really massively exciting to report. Oh, there is obviously a special race next season. I think we'll wait until we drop the calendar, but there's a nice special race next season, which I think we'll try and do something special for.
Well, thank you very much, Carl. We'll speak to you soon. Enjoy the off season.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much, and thanks you to I can't speak. Thanks to you too as well, Owen.
That was Kyle, the league owner. I've just also rudely cut off, so my apologies, Carl. But from myself, Tom Dillon, that is all we have time for from Owen Boldero, who's been our technical insight throughout the season. Also to everyone who's covered me at any point in the season, Josh Birch, Ed Hunter, everyone else involved in the streams. We thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you all later. Good night for now.
And we're underway and racing. Stay on the brakes, goodness me, what a launch! The outside of turn 1 and takes the lead of the race.